Hi, welcome back. So this is the first is sort of those extra tutorials that we implied we might do, and that's one about paragraph numbering. We don't use paragraph numbering a lot when it comes to academic or technical documents, but it is fairly common in the business world or the legal world, banking, and those types of things. So most of us will do paragraph numbering sometime during our career, and so it's probably worth taking a few minutes just to look at it. We'll flip around to the computer, we'll number up some of the paragraphs in our document, and look at some of the quirks about working with it effectively. Okay, so here we are. We're in our document, and I've scrolled down to the section 2.5 on contributions because I had a series of paragraphs within the same section that we can play with and see how it's working. So there's really two kinds of paragraph numbering schemes that you can use. They're represented by the two buttons up here. One is your basic single level numbering scheme, and you see I've got the box drop down, and you can see different formats. It's usually in the style of the numbering, whether it includes a prefix or not. And then the one beside it, which is the multi-level numbering, clearly a more advanced and more intricate, and to be fair, a more functional form of automatic numbering that you might want to use. Again, it has different styles. You can use combinations of numerals and letters, or you can have the cascading numbers like we used in our headings, fairly common in contract work and that type of thing. And if you can master that, quite frankly, you probably never go back to the single level numbering unless you're just doing something really quick and getting it off. So let's start. Let's see what it can look like. So I'm going to choose one of my paragraphs, and I'm going to go up and choose a basic style of numbering. So right there, we're just going to accept it for the defaults that it brings and have a look, and then modify it so that it looks the way we want it to look. So we've chosen it. Of course, it changed our style completely. I don't know why it does that, why it doesn't just put a numbering scheme in there. We don't want our paragraph to look like that. We still want our paragraph to look somewhat like it used to. So let's put it back the way it was. So let's bring it over so our numbers on the left-hand margin. Let's get, I may as well do this. Bring our indents back there. So now it looks like what we had, only it's numbered. And if we like that, we can just update our style to match. And you see now all of our paragraphs are numbered. Okay, so probably what is more useful, as I alluded to in the introduction, is to use multi-level styles. And to be fair, if you look at the complexity of the dialog box that it offers you, it's also much more capable as far as matching to your style and to the look that you're looking for. So again, we're going to highlight our paragraph, and only this time we're going to go up to the multi-level list. And you see that the multi-level list gives you cascading paragraphs, subparagraphs, sub-subparagraphs with a different and changing numbering style depending on what level you're at. So I'm going to start. I'm just going to choose the standard one, and we're going to update our style to match. So it'll proliferate itself down. And now when we go to a style, so if I tab this over, basically what it's going to assume is that I'm indenting it to the next level of the multi-level paragraph. And you see it'll go from the Roman numeral 13 to 13A. If I hit a return there, it's going to assume that I want to continue at the same level. And I can put in some text. Oh, look, caps lock on. It's almost offensive. And now if I tab, it's going to go into the next level, and we keep on going. So that's great. This is actually, if you're using paragraph numbering, probably where you need to be, because it's going to give you the flexibility to have multi-levels of paragraphs and subparagraphs. Now, a couple things to make it work well. So we chose the default right off the start, and I have rarely found one of their styles, one of their standard indent numbering schemes to either suit the document that I'm writing as far as the publisher or the employer and what they're expecting, or it didn't sit well with me based on the way I was looking. I mean, this is a massive indent in here before you even get to the numbering system. So it really becomes important if you're using multi-level numbering to be able to modify it to make it look the way you want it to look. So let's see if we can't do that here. So I'm just going to highlight that. If I highlight one, it doesn't matter. They're all going to update anyway. And I'm going to go up to our multi-level box again. Only this time I'm going to come down and say define new multi-level list. And it's going to start with what we have currently chosen. And then we're going to modify it from there. So on the left here, what you see, these are each of the levels of the various lists. And obviously you don't necessarily need 9 levels defined. We're just going to have to go and make sure that if we're using 3 or 4 levels that we get those defined. So I'm going to start at number 1, so it's chosen. And if we look down here, it'll tell you exactly what it's going to look like. It's going to say, okay, we're going to use this number style for this level. So it's using an Arabic numerals, 1, 2, 3. And typed into this box, you see there's a period after it. You could put a parentheses, you could put a hyphen, you could put anything you want there. But the period probably works well for us. And then it gives us the alignment. And this is the preview box up here. So it's showing you how these are cascading amongst themselves. Just probably because of some of the early work that I did, I tend to prefer these for that first level at 0 and 0. So that again, it's going to look a lot like what we've been using so far for our basic para style. And that looks pretty good to me for para 1. So now I just click on level 2, and now I go through the same process and I say, okay, what do we want the second level of our numbering scheme to look like? So for me, I'm going to stick with our Arabic numerals, only instead of a period, I'm going to use a parenthesis, and I'm going to start with a 1/2 inch to the numeral and a 1 inch to the text indent. And then subsequent lines will show up where that text indent is. So it's going to have a fairly distinct subparagraph look to it. And we see it up here in the preview. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go down. And I'm going to maintain my scheme now is that I'm going to basically go in a 1/2 inch each subsequent time and just change the style of the numbering. So now let's pick up some letters, lowercase letters. The period looks good. It would match our first paragraph. And we were at 0.5 and 1. So let's go to 1 and 1.5. And see, we'll have a quick look at our preview, and that looks reasonable. I think I'm happy with that. So let's do one more, maybe 2 more. So we're going to keep our scheme going here. I'm going to choose the letters again, this time with a parenthesis. And what were we at? 1 and 1.5, so 1 point, oops. Can't type. 1.5 and 2. See if we got that right. Something doesn't look right there. Oh, no, that's okay. It's over 1/2 inch. And then if we go to level 5, and in this case, why don't we choose Roman numerals and the period after it. And say 2.0 and 2.5, and that again, I think we've got it right. So again, you don't have to get all too worried if it's not perfect. Modifying it is as easy as what we just did here. We just go in and fix the little bit that we didn't get right. So I'm going to say OK, and this is going to cascade itself down in that format. And now I look at it and am I happy? So yeah, a couple of quirks about this. So if you're in a paragraph, subparagraph at whatever level, if you hit return, it assumes that you want to continue typing at the same level. buttons, the tab and the shift tab tend to work. So if I have it highlighted, if I want it to go in one, I hit the tab. If I want it to come back out, I hit the shift tab. Or we can use our indent buttons up here to choose the level that we want to be at. You can also right click and adjust list levels or list indents, and you choose the indent level that you think that paragraph is supposed to be at. If we want to restart the numbering, because for example, if we scroll up here, we'll see in paragraph or chapter 2, it's still at paragraph 5 because it's a fifth of that paragraph. And so maybe we want the numbering to restart itself. So if we right click and we say restart at 1, now starting in chapter 2, we get everything, all the paragraphs starting to number at number 1 and going on from there. And of course they fix themselves automatically as we go through. And of course, if we did chapter 3, then we would do the same thing. We would make sure that we restarted the paragraph numbering again at chapter 3. So that's pretty much the gist of paragraph numbering. I will caution you a little bit that working with styles and paragraph numberings, you're probably going to come across some quirky behaviors that I haven't personally quite figured out. Of course, where it updates your style and you don't know why it's done that. And to be fair, I can't answer that question. Sometimes there are some quirky behaviors, but a little bit of patience, a little bit of perseverance, and you will get it doing, as it's doing right now, exactly what we want. And that's your paragraph numbering. Again, not typical for technical work or academic work, but fairly common in the business world and elsewhere. So if that's useful to you, all the best.